on Opensource Web3. So today, the whole track is on meta good. Basically, how can we combine technologies and different modalities from Web3 and also doing social good, social impact. Often we talk about ESG, right? So environmental, social, and governance. And how can we utilize Web3 technologies to create impact in environmental and social issues? So today we have two amazing projects in the beginning to share their experiences and how they launched their NFTs and different Web3 technologies to create better social good. And then we'll have two newer projects that are just 1 year old to share their new frameworks and projects. And our panel of judges and also guests will be giving them some feedback. And at the end, we'll have a lovely discussion on what, everything that has been happening in the crypto world and how the volatility and how does that really create impact in the long run? How can we really look at Web3 on the nature and the culture and the values of Web3 and not just on short-term fluctuation of the markets? So first, I would love to introduce Louis to the stage. Yes. I would say he's part of dialogue experience. So he's really a veteran of social innovation and been in human resources for 20 years and has joined the dialogue experience team to launch their Dialogue Empower program. So dialogue experience, you might not have heard of it, but dialogue in the dark. I'm sure you've heard of it. So this experience that brings people to go through a blind experience to create empathy. And they've been around for 15 years as a social enterprise, but now they're venturing into Web3. And how can they launch their own Web3 projects to create more social impact? Pass the time to Louis, yeah.
So I should share first, right?
Yes, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. For this topic is, I think it's very interesting to invite us to say something. I represent an NGO, Dialogue in the Dark, and I represent someone who, the organization which we don't know about Web 3.0. We're just doing something, and we are doing a lot of impact. I mean, today's conversation will be about we are doing impact for a long time. How can physical impact can connect with Web 3.0. Okay, let me share about our project. And yes, so I want to share our mission is engage people of differences to create social impact. So this is our mission. People of differences, normally we may say persons of disability, but use the term people of differences. This is a very, very critical meaning of how we treat people. Actually, everyone is people with differences. So, actually, in 1st of June, we launched our NFT. This is our NFT. The name is DDOG, NFT, DID, and then DOG. So DDOG, DDOG. Okay, so this is from the design is about is a blind dog, so they can help our visually impaired people to walk around over the city. So this is the design come from. So you can see this is our launch. We launched the day we launched the NFT. Okay, the story comes from when everyone in the COVID-19. So we are a non-government surrender NGO, so we need to make our money. During COVID-19, half of the time we closed the center with zero income. So what can we do? And then we have some friends, they come to us, hey, come on, use some NFT, you can make big money. I said, wow, really? It seems like a lot of company and NGO, they launch NFT. But honestly, today, no one making money. Huh? It's very, very hard. But at that time, fans come to us, and then we study. Actually, what is NFT? And then I started studying it a few months ago. And we think we should not do that as a fundraising, because this is not secure. And it seems no one will buy, we make a lot of money by buying our NFT. That's tough. So let's change the direction. Is let's make it a membership. But when we talk about using NFT as a membership, we are talking about like a long lasting program rather than 1 or 2 months. You know, some of the NFT, they launch a 2 months life cycle and then it's over. And we don't want the buyers to sell our NFT. So that's very strange thinking in the NFT world. Okay, and then we think more. And first we want to make some money for our operation. And then we think further, we are doing inclusion every day. Our impact, social impact is making the world better, more inclusive workplace, inclusive campus. Does Metaverse lead inclusion? I think, yeah, we should do something. But I don't know how to do that. But let's think big, think further, like everywhere should be inclusive. So I need some advice from today's my fans. So give me some advice. How can I make a Metaverse more inclusive? And we know that this is something about Metaverse. I don't want to cover this because you know more than me. The one point I want to mention is low geographic restriction. Not only in Darwin the Dark, not only in our center, also outside Darwin the Dark Center or all over the world. We're trying to do something like that. And we are thinking to buy a land, maybe somewhere in the Metaverse, to build a center later, okay? And what we are doing every day is our physical program. So we are doing physical experiences every day. So how can match this together? This is what we are always thinking. We have some advisors, and actually we don't know how to do, so we ask our fans like Components, Elite Apps. They're doing quite good in Hong Kong. They have their members, they have a group of like NFT buyers, and we asked for their advice. And actually we did some cooperation between each other, but that's still tough. Still tough, okay. Okay, this is for my promotion. Actually, everyone here, you can buy our ticket, buy our membership. Very simple. Okay, go to our website, and we organize a lot of special activities just for the membership. I mean, we are good at providing activity, providing experience. Let's collect it. So we have here, there, and then you can see that this is yoga, and we have Lana. Lana is a guide dog, very famous guide dog in Hong Kong. And also, you can have dinner in the dark. Ankia, we work with Choye NFT, Ankia, that's a special edition. So we are trying to do something like very interesting. Okay, I'll tell you what's our result. Actually, we are in a work in progress. We are still learning. We're still trying to do more. That's not a big number. Honestly, we just have like 70-something members. Not many. So you should join us. Okay. And we have special edition with John Zhang Choye NFT. The special edition is called Unclear NFT. And most NFT is very, very clear. And this version is unclear. There's a special effect and special meaning behind that. And you can know more in our website. So we will have a lot of activities later on. Here, like a lot of collaboration with different like KOL and other famous people in Hong Kong. So we're extending our supporting merchant. Basically, what we are doing is very ground. It's very physical. So today I'm seeking for advices. Or how can the Metaverse and the physical experience can work together and to promote inclusiveness to virtual world and physical world. This is my time. So thank you, and we will discuss later.
One question.
Okay.
Yeah, just one question before we move on. So what does an inclusive metaverse look like to you?
I don't know. I don't know, actually. This is something, just an idea at the moment. But for me, I think there is a lot of activities in the virtual world, all right? There's a lot of people over there, whether they're true people or virtual people over there. And whenever there are interaction over there, people should be more inclusive. This is an idea, and I don't know what will be, what will the picture be, but let's work for us over there with my fans. Some suggestions from you guys.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So even I think, can someone who's visually impaired also be in a VR metaverse? Could be interesting, haptic experiences. So next up, we have Max, who's the founder of Carbon-Base, who's also a venture builder and data scientist working on the E side of carbon. So I think you've been in the space for a bit longer, for 2+ years. So I think it'll be great to hear your vision of the environmental impact in Web3.
Thank you, Dorothy, and also thank you, Louis. I think that was a very clear and quite authentic experience. I'll definitely go and support you with a dog NFT. So I want to take a moment to talk to you guys about climate change and the ways that I think the digital revolution and the climate revolution are going to have an intersection with each other. So the company I built is called Carbon-Base. It started in January 2020, so it's been roughly almost 3 years. Along that journey, we've actually seen the emergence of NFTs as an industry. We've seen the emergence of climate awareness and institutional finance for green finance. And I think we're sort of sitting at this sort of 2 intersections. So our hope is actually, because I've been Bitcoin and crypto for a long time. I bought Bitcoin in 2014, so I've watched this sort of crypto industry evolve over the last 7-8 years, is actually to create a concept similar to the way that we generate crypto tokens today through proof of work, but actually through proof of carbon removal. That's kind of the key idea. We actually hope to employ millions of people around the world to earn an economic living by being able to put carbon in the ground and verify that they've actually done so. And today, there's a lot of challenges in how we address climate change. One of the fundamental ones is that there is lacks of incentives, right? People don't really have any key motivational pillar to sort of do something action-oriented. And then there's a lot of details around carbon markets, which we won't go into too much today. I do want to spend a minute to tell you about how carbon credits work. Everyone's heard about carbon credits before? Show of hands if you have. But how many of you guys really have looked deeply into it? We've had chances to train the Hong Kong MA, the SFC, and many other regulatory bodies on this as well, so you sort of get a little bit tidbit of this. There's really 2 carbon markets that exist in the world today. One of them is where the government comes in and forces companies to actually have to remove CO2, otherwise you get fined or penalized. That's usually called a compliance carbon market. And today it's about a $260 billion market. It's quite big. China actually launched a compliance carbon market in June last year, and it governs 40% of Chinese emissions. It's the largest carbon market by far. And alongside that, there's a smaller sort of sister market called a voluntary carbon market, which is very small. It's about $1 billion today. But the voluntary carbon market is where I see the most potential, because unlike the compliance one, the voluntary one allows every person in the world, like people here sitting down, actually to participate. You guys can actually earn economic income by drawing down carbon. And as some of you guys have seen, we're living in pretty dire times. So last week was the end of COP27, the 27th time we had a climate change conference by the UN. And we have less than 8 years left until we totally exhaust the 1.5 degree carbon budget. That means that by the time that you guys are, by 2028, you will not have a chance to turn back the clock anymore. We will be irreversibly committed to this cause. So climate change is not something that happens on a 20-year time frame, it's happening on a 5-year time frame. And in order to do so, we found a really interesting point of leverage called a carbon registry. Actually, it's like a central bank for carbon credits. So there are 4 registries today, and these registries are responsible for originating all of the carbon in the world, voluntary carbon credits in the world. And they account for 97% of the market. So where are these registries located? One of them is located in Switzerland, called the Gold Standard, and 3 of them are located in the United States, DC, California, and California. Unfortunately, we don't have a local registry in Asia, nor do we have one in South America or Africa. So carbon-based, our key kind of North Star is actually to build the world's 5th carbon registry and build it here in Hong Kong. And with the existence of this registry, we can actually shift the gravitational center of power. So actually a lot of the Southeast Asian countries can earn income from being able to decarbonize. So that's a very large and ambitious goal, but I think we're on our way to do so. The Greater Bay Area, which is sort of a large extension of where we are, also lends itself very well to this opportunity. In fact, yesterday, the Hong Kong Exchange ran the gong on actually starting the carbon trading markets on the Hong Kong Exchange. So not only are we seeing this in the kind of frontier markets, the traditional institutional pillars are also participating. In addition, GBA has the biggest manufacturing base in this part of the world. There's a large, sort of supply chain for heavy industrials. So I think that there's a lot of core kind of activity base, and we're working with some pretty big companies in the region to do that. So why do we think we have a shot? Well, we sort of focus on 3 key pillars. Credibility, so how to use digital technologies like blockchain to actually increase a lot of transparency for your carbon. Verification, my own training, as Doris mentioned, was machine learning and data science. So I used to write a lot of machine learning code for programs. And so we can actually use data-driven processes to actually do verification. And finally, economy. The crypto world is quite big. Crypto right now is about $900 billion. And the carbon market's roughly, 1-2 billion. So my goal is if we can shift even 10% of the crypto world over to participate in the carbon markets, we can actually grow the target markets 10x. And that'd be really helpful. Timing-wise, I think we're living through interesting times as well. Around us, all of these major companies are committing to net zero pledges. Even SMEs are committing to net zero pledges. Large banks and even governments are pushing for establishment of Asian carbon markets. Singapore, Temasek has pledged multiple billions of dollars to this cause. And finally, there's this concept called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and we see them actually being one of the catalytic pillars where the government can say, I now have allocated like $500 billion that can only be earned if you actually decarbonize. So you actually can tie in sort of like corporate spending, sort of stimulus spending to decarbonization. So around the world, like a lot of the major international companies are pledging what's called TCFD and SBTI. These are acronyms that sort of reflect their corporate landscape for setting large ambitious climate change goals. And also carbon itself is an investable asset. So the first carbon ETF was launched in Hong Kong earlier this year as well. So how do we sort of see our position in this world? There is a very small group of people around the world who have individually taken action to become carbon neutral themselves. It is a small, small drop in the ocean. There's a much larger circle actually of people who are corporates who actually have committed to carbon neutral pledges. And we believe that we can add a 3rd circle, which is the tokenized carbon economy, right? Allowing the use of NFTs and digital assets to actually make more people participate than ever before. And we hope to grow this market 100 times. So from right now where it is in the single-digit billions, we hope to grow it to 100 bill. And this ambition is not only shared by us, it's also shared by Mark Carney, who is the former Central Banker of England and now the Special Envoy for Climate Finance. So his main job at the UN is basically to try to grow this market 100 times. Where does the blockchain fit in? So one of the key exciting things I really find stimulating is actually the key things you need to do with the carbon registry have a one-to-one mapping with the existing tools of a blockchain. So the key things are you need to have an account management system. You need to be able to attribute who has how much carbon footprint, how much emissions how many credits did they purchase, how many credits did they retire, and where did the credits come from. And today, all of this functionality is realizable and implementable on the blockchain itself. So we're very far along in actually building a blockchain registry. We hope to launch it in January next year. And it'll be Hong Kong's first. And I think it'll be a good source of kind of ecosystem creation here in Hong Kong. Robust recording actually plays very heavily into this. Unlike the traditional ESG industry, how many guys work in the ESG industry or something like that? So you have to spend a lot of time hiring people actually to do reporting. You have to actually get them to write a report saying this is what my company did. You get the reporting for free if you use a blockchain because it's auto-recorded. You don't need to have that person to do that anymore. So this is actually a really robust and efficient process. And another dimension, and actually this is something for the more retail-facing side, is that we can actually enable an app ecosystem, like a Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, but for carbon applications. So we can actually have an API that fits into a lot of the consumer spending, credit card, hotel booking, travel, And that way, actually, you can, every time you do something, you can actually receive a direct kind of point-of-sale system for decarbonizing your purchase. There's a much larger topic we can talk about. You can do a Q&A on how CBDCs fit together. I'm just going to say that we actually have a guest visiting Hong Kong in December who is the Satoshi Nakamoto of central bank carbon credits. He's staying for about a week. We're arranging meetings for him with the central bank here, and we'll probably do some community events so you guys can hear his ideas, how this works. Obviously, for the banking side, this is a very profitable and lucrative endeavor, and can give you a reference point. I spoke to one of the leads of sustainable finance for Bank of America. She said so her bank has committed $1.5 trillion to green finance. So her minimum check size is about 50 million US. So if you want to actually deal with kind of sovereign size funding, this is actually where a lot of the opportunities exist. Climate risk modeling, mobilized capital, ESG data, and public awareness. So this is the final part where we need to get a lot of people like you guys, aware, educated, and then participating in these kind of situations. There's a bit of technical detail, which I'll omit for now. And then we just kind of got a key question, which is how do you actually jumpstart a central bank? Like building a central bank is very hard. Like it's not an easy lift. So after working on this problem for 3 years, we sort of decomposed the problem space into 4 key buckets: international recognition, demand, supply, and technology. And so we've been trying to make progress on each of these 4 pillars. This is a map of our ecosystem. So some of the supporters, awards we've won, grantees we have, some of the biggest sustainability companies in the world have been helping us actually along this journey. And in particular, the WWF has been really a good partner to work with. So it turns out the WWF is actually one of the founders of one of the 4 registries. In fact, they founded the only one that's not American, which is the one in Switzerland. So we had a chance to actually share our work with WWF. We actually made NFTs for WWF for the first time in their corporate history, and this led to kind of several different dimensions. But one of the things actually is we had a chance to do leadership training. So we presented to 30 WWF CEOs across Asia Pacific, including Philippines, Malaysia, Bhutan, Singapore, UAE, etc., and convinced them, onboard them, and get their support. So to the question of why are you qualified to build a registry? We say, well, we work with these guys and they already made one. They made one of the most exciting and legit ones in the world. And then the final thing I'll leave you with, and this is kind of tying back to the NFT world, actually is the problem of incentives. How do you get people individually to care if you don't actually care yourself intrinsically? And we asked 250 people, why are you not carbon neutral today? So question, who is here carbon neutral? Raise your hand. Wow. So you guys can be carbon neutral if you want to. Come talk to me. I've been carbon neutral for 3 years. And some of the reasons why people are not neutral today are too much of a hassle. Can't figure out what my footprint is. I'm not sure the credits are legit. Why am I paying for big companies to pollute more? It costs more money to buy credits, and I want to spend the money. I'm already pretty down on my crypto holdings, and there's no social recognition for doing so. So we are addressing these kind of 6 elemental questions with our project, and we're introducing a reward model. So the old world is you spend money, you buy carbon, that's the end of the story. Our world is we tokenize these credits. You buy these credits, they're recorded on the chain, so you can see your electronic history of purchase. You can brag about it to your kid. Look, I'm carbon neutral in 2022. You actually can use the reward point we issue you to purchase exciting NFTs. And then these NFTs, some of them have collector value, so you actually have a circular loop. You actually get to earn money from your decision making. And to kind of share with you where we sit in the ecosystem, this is the existing world as it's known today, the 4 registries, the developers, the brokers, the buyers, and so we are the first reward. We're the first one to offer rewards for being carbon neutral. And things we are looking to develop, virtual real estate, assets, wearable avatars, virtual events and tickets, and things you can use to express yourself. One of the people we worked with is Vivian Tam, so we helped her do the first Metaverse fashion show earlier this year in New York City. We put the Bored Apes and the Punks on the runway, and we hope that turns into a bigger collaboration in Metaverse fashion, right? So I've been learning a lot more in the sort of luxury fashion world. Another one is actually we're working with a carbon negative country in South America called Suriname, and so we're helping them build a sovereign metaverse, a metaverse for a country. With some collaborators at MIT, we actually are creating dynamic NFTs. So we take satellite data and we use it to change the appearance of the metadata. So when we have these trees, you paint them on your wall, if the forest burns down, then your trees also turn to a crisp. If the forest grows, then your trees become more lush. So it's kind of creating a way for the offline world and the digital world to sort of talk to each other. We've been very lucky to actually be the official sustained partner for the Conference of the Youth at UN on Google Arts and Cultures page, and we also helped make the S&P's first ever carbon neutral conference here in Hong Kong. So with collaboration with those guys coming up over there, Dot, we actually made a PO-app for you guys. So if you were to take out your phone and scan this thing, you'll be able to redeem a reward, not a reward, a sort of proof of attendance that captures a little bit of the spirit of Hong Kong and also the panel that we're having here encoded. So this is kind of a way for the traditional people to actually see what it feels like to own an NFT. Doesn't cost you any money and kind of onboards you. So I'll sort of take the last 30 seconds and just kind of share with you my feeling, which is, I think we're living through a deep reevaluation of whether or not, crypto has an interesting future. After the whole sort of, negative news cycle the last 2 weeks, a lot of people have been disillusioned. For me, having worked in climate change for 3 years and crypto for like 6, I sort of see us actually meeting in the middle. And I think that actually this ability to use crypto to solve real world problems actually is what's going to give crypto a future. So I'm really excited to share the panel with these incredible people here and all of you guys and see where this kind of conversation takes us. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think Carbon-Base has a lot of different components that in Web3. So just curious of your journey. How did you land? Did you come with the technology first, or was it more on the climate side? And how did the two come together? I think every Web3 project that combines the two has a very unique marriage of the two sides. And so how did you come to that journey? Yeah.
I used to run investments for Web3 for a large family office in Hong Kong, so I've had a chance to see a lot of the different ways people apply blockchain. I wrote a master's thesis on climate finance in 2016, so almost 6 years ago. And these two things kind of combined for me personally in the 2019 sort of December time zone, where I sort of had this there's one evening actually, like around 11 p.m., where I was like, actually, the way that carbon markets work are exactly how the blockchain markets work, except that we're not using it that way. And so I sort of spent 5-6 hours writing this thoughts down. This became kind of the foundation for what we're doing today.
Great. Thank you, Max. So I think for people who are in the audience that are looking to use Web3 technologies to create social good, you can definitely see the mirroring and the systems that you can then plug in to create the impact that you want to create, whether it's in education or in other kinds of social services. So up next, we have 2 projects to share their latest development. And the first one, I would love to invite Lawrence to, oh wait, I think I'm doing Tamir, to share how we can use NFTs in the new wallet that you're building. Thank you.
Cool. Hey, everybody. I think to start, I just want to ask just a general question. Who actually in this audience has an NFT? Oh, okay, not bad. Actually, pretty good, pretty good. I'm sure the number isn't as high as it could be because the reality is Web3 is really, really difficult, right? And I think how a project like Dotted sort of relates to everything is to start talking about more of the complexities, how we can use Web3 for social good, how we can really do anything, right? The most important thing is, how do you get started, right? How do you actually begin everything, right? So, does it? No? Do I click it this way? Okay. Awesome. Tech issues. Yeah. So I think to start, right, McKinsey, a lot of really smart consultants, they say by the year 2030, 5 billion people will come to Web3, right? The reality, I think for a lot of you who've actually used MetaMask, use all these things, the reality is it's just too difficult, right? What if I told you you can invest in the stock market, but if you forget your password, you'll lose everything for the rest of your life? Come on. I think most of us wouldn't actually want to use this as a platform. Most of us would say, hey, this is too difficult. I mean, I talked to my mom, talk to my girlfriend, talk to our family, talk to my friends. They're like, no, it's too hard, right? And that's kind of the issue that we see, right? We can talk about all these future things, but if you have the difficulty to even sign up, buy a wallet, right? I bought my wallet. Now, okay, how do I buy cryptocurrency? I have no idea, right? How do I mint my first NFT? How do I trade? How do I interact with people, right? This is all stuff that's fundamentally broken with the industry. And I think that's sort of the problem that we see, right? Like, you can't really talk about the future if you can't really use it. So, that's why we redesigned the Web3 experience, right? So, the audit is really designed to kind of help onboard people into Web3. It enables people, for people that aren't experienced, who don't want to use MetaMask accounts, all you need to do is a similar Web2 experience. You sign up with an email, you get a magic link, you use your cell phone. It's just like any other app you would use, right? We provide a really easy way to get onto cryptocurrency, a really simple way to mint an NFT, to trade, and to socialize with people, right? Because I think the fundamental issue that exists now is that it's just hard, right? It's just so difficult. How do you actually do any of this stuff? And just a quick background on myself, right? I got into Web3 in about 2018. I worked at Kinetic, so it was one of the more famous crypto VCs to come out of Hong Kong. And the issues that existed then are the same issues that existed now, right? It's just really complicated. It's really difficult. Nobody knows actually how to easily onboard, and it's not made for mass market, right? So I did that for a little while. I kind of gave up, and I was like, okay, I'll go back into corporate. I joined the HKX, did that for a few years, and then I was kind of looking to something that could solve the issue, because I thought, okay, corporates can really drive the change. And I came to see what Dotted was building, and I was like, okay, this actually is the future. This is a way that fixed the UI, UX problem that's preventing 5 billion people or even 100 million people to come on board. And that's kind of why we think, we're building something that's a lot better. So it's kind of easy to say, okay, we're building a better Web3 for everyone, right? So how do we do that, right? So we work with projects, we work with creators, and we work with corporates, right? And I think for the audience today, I'll just stick to the corporate bit, right? So a fundamental issue is a lot of corporates come in, they're like, I want to do an NFT. Well, how do I actually do any of this? So they have no idea, right? And we've worked with the Hong Kong Palace Museum to do their first NFT drop. We worked with Bupa to do their first NFT campaign. We worked with the Digital Art Fair. And the thing that we solved was like, basically, okay, we make it really, really simple for you, right? We make it really easy for you. It's super easy to set up your wallet. You can engage with their clients directly, and you can give away what we call a gasless mint, right? So what that means is, for the case of Hong Kong Palace Museum, okay, their customer, when they got their first NFT, the normal user experience is, I set up a wallet, I buy some cryptocurrency, I mint, and then hopefully I pick the right website, and then that mints me the NFT, right? All kinds of issues exist, right? For them, we just said, okay, you have these clients, they're VIPs, it's open for the 25th anniversary. All they need to do is click a button. And that's all they did. They clicked a button, they got their first NFT. Very, very simple. And I think the secondary issue that I think a lot of projects probably feel is like, okay, I do my first NFT sale, now what? Right? You do a marketplace, you sell initially. And I think the thing that we realize is, like, to keep people interested and engaged in the future of Web3, right, you have to find a way to keep them interactive, right? How many people actually read their emails for random events they've gone to? I don't, I'll be honest with you, right? How many people open LinkedIn emails or LinkedIn messages from spam? We realize that by creating an app, right, you're more likely to check something from a message from friends. We can directly geo-update. So for the Digital Art Fair, we allow people who got their first NFT there to get an alert and say, hey, there's this artist, you seem to like digital art. Why don't you have a look at what they're doing? And we think this is kind of the way forward, right? Integrating it simply into people's lives, allowing it to be like, okay, it's not Web3, it's not complicated, it's just like anything else in your life. And that's sort of how and why we built Dot the way we did. So kind of touching base, going back to, I've talked a bit about making things easy and everything else, and I kind of want to go back to creating the green future, right? I think the limitations really is just, it's lack of opportunity and lack of things to kind of move forward. And I think, Max mentioned before, we're partnering with his team because they're much more experienced and able to actually lead this kind of future. And for stuff like us, we just want to be the backbone to allow projects, creators, corporates to execute, right? And the thing that we think is like, okay, NFTs was interesting, right? Ethereum pre-merge, you look at a really popular chain, all the trading that was occurring, thousands of tons of CO2 was being released, right? we can change that. We have the technology, we have the ability. Smart people like Carbon-Base are actually directly building ways to offset this kind of things and make carbon neutral trading, to make ESG NFT. So basically when like similar to what, similar, like if you sell something, how does it actually benefit people? And I think the other thing that's really important is stuff like this, right? Education. So I really, admire what SES is doing to kind of teach people about, the Web3 future, to learn what's happening and to grow. And I'll keep it really sweet because I know there's a lot more interesting and smart people than me to talk. But I'll just go back, claim your first NFT, give it a try. I think the other thing that I really want to highlight here today is, look, I'm not born and raised in Hong Kong, but I've lived in the city for 8 years and I really love it. And I think the thing that everyone needs to remember is for Web3 specifically, for the Web3 space, Hong Kong is a global leader, right? They're a bit dirty now, but FTX came out of here, BitMEX came out of here, Tether came out of here. A lot of huge companies that they have various degrees of what we think are okay, but they're huge companies coming out of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong can really, really lead the future here. Everything that you're being a part of, everything that we're talking about, we really want that to come out of here. So, just really happy and grateful for everyone for their time. Let's build the future together. Other generic, positive things. So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to me.
So please feel free to scan it now. We'll also show it at the end of the whole event, so you get a chance to do it. So the second project will be the Metaverse Education Foundation, which is pitched by Elaine. She also is a serial entrepreneur herself. She started multiple startups. Her latest one is an AI company for pet designs, but this is her other project, which is interested to promote education in the Metaverse for youth. So give the time to her.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay, let me try this first. Okay. Go back. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine. So I'm one of the co-founder of the Metaverse Charity Foundation, which is we've actually found this charity association this year in June. So let me tell you guys what we do. So sorry that we have the content in Chinese, but I'm going to present in English. So basically, Metaverse Charity Foundation, we're focusing on promoting Metaverse Web3 the ideas to the local student, to the youth, and also maybe to some underprivileged group, to let them to know, to understand more about Web3, Metaverse, or digital assets. So we want to through the charity and community to let the student or youth to know more, and also maybe to able to create their own NFT. Yeah, and also we want to build the different, for example, like the webinars for some different professional or different sector of the different industry, to let them know more about the Web3 and also some digital transformation. So this is our team. We have another co-founder here, but unfortunately he's stuck in a core. So he's Ivan. Ivan is basically mostly working in digital human. So he's a founder of a Pantheon Lab. So he is mostly supporting the technical parties. And this is me. I'm Elaine. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I basically focusing on a tourism, pet technology, and now also a lecturer for different university. And I'm an entrepreneur for 11 years. So I'm mostly focusing on promoting the Web3 or Metaverse concept to different industry. And another founders, which is Alex Chen, he is one of our co-founders as well, and he is a lawyer, so he basically focusing on promoting the Metaverse and Web3 concept to the legal industry. Yeah, and this is also our team, and we can see that we have different advisor and honorary chairman from the government parties. So we have Edward and Frankie from the government side, which is in charge for the digit, for example, the Kowloon East and Hong Kong East. So we basically through his network to promote the Web3 and Metaverse concept to let the children or let the student to understand our seminar and workshop. And we have a Boan, which is she is Miss Hong Kong, and she is also now is an entrepreneur. So we have her to promote the Metaverse concept to her network as well. So we have different parties from the tourism, from the AI, and also from the youth. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we mostly organize a lot of education courses for local students and also for the, especially for the underprivileged student and the youth. And we want to tell them and we let them to have a chance to create their digital NFT and their digital arts pieces. And we also invite some experts from the Metaverse. So if you guys are the expert are happy to join us, feel free to join us and let their children to understand more about the Web3 and the Metaverse. Because the youth is the future, right? We need to let them to learn more about the Metaverse and the Web3. And we also building the Metaverse infrastructure for example, some government parties. We also have some example afterwards. Yeah, so this is one of our projects we actually building, but unfortunately we are not able to share much, but we have some screenshot. So we can see this is the Hong Kong, the peak. So we are actually building 3D modeling, but this is actually just a screenshot of a 2D. So this is the peak. And we can see that this is the M+. This is the West Kowloon that we are building right now. Maybe we will have some seminar and some concert over there on the stage. And this is the Victoria Harbour. Yeah, and this is the Tsim Sha Tsui area. Clock Tower. Yeah, and this is actually one of our NFT we create for the fitness, the TV. So we can see that it's very funny. It's a Kung Fu. They want to through the NFT to promote the Kung Fu style. So we invite some student or some youth to give some idea to create a different NFT, the IP together with the TV. And for this one, not sure if you guys can see from the pictures. So we actually want to promote. It's a monkeypox. So in everyone's monkeypox is a very horrible disease, right? But actually we want to let people to understand. Okay, monkeypox you can recover, and actually it's not that horrible. And we want to increase the awareness. Okay, if you get monkeypox, you can face it positive, right? And we don't want the people get sad. So we actually create something really funny. So if you guys can see, this is a Top Gun style. And on the top, there's some famous people, but I should not mention the name. So this is something we are working with the student and underprivileged group to let them know first about the disease. And second, we want to increase the exposure in the market to let people to understand, okay, monkeypox is not that horrible. Yeah, so basically this is my presentation, and if you guys are keen to join us for some volunteer group, please feel free to let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. So we've heard from 4 different projects on how they uniquely take Web3 into creating their own impact. So I'd love to invite Max and also Louis back onto the stage and also introduce 3 new guests. So we'll have Bohemia, who will be our moderator today. She's an impact venture builder, co-founder of Anima Ventures, a female-led venture builder based out of Hong Kong to bridge the funding and ecosystem gap for female founders in Hong Kong. Next, we have Galen, who's co-founder of Double Peak Group, a family office focusing on digital assets and blockchain space. And finally, Kelvin, who's leading Monkey Bits, the newest project by Monkey Kingdom, who's one of the more successful projects of NFT that's founded in Hong Kong. So pass the time to Bohemia to lead the panel discussion. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dorothy. And thank you to all the presenters just now. It was fascinating to see your projects, especially in the impact space. Some of you didn't start straight off with NFTs, but it was your original impactful companies going into it. And I really applaud the mission and the efforts that you've put into it, because entering into this kind of new world, even commercially, is not easy, let alone with impact. So I think it's a great achievement to have come so far. And obviously, as Lewis said, there's a lot that impact can learn from other players in the metaverse. And I think that a panel would be remiss and a bit of a shame if we don't merge different worlds together. So I'm really pleased that we have, to my very left, Lewis and Max, who are in the impact world straddling the metaverse. And then we have Kelvin, who is in the metaverse, you know, as the monkey bid here.
That's today.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also a UI UX specialist, so he'll share his experiences in this regard here. And then we have Galen, who is well known in Hong Kong as a crypto investor and also an enthusiast of Web3. And so we'd also like his investor angle as well. And myself, I just have a lot of opinions, so I'm sitting I'm sitting on this panel for that. So welcome, everyone. So I think we need to address the elephant in the room, and it's already been mentioned. The whole saga with the Terra ecosystem and Luna exploding, and then obviously SBF and FTX and Alameda, you know, that all happened in the past 2 weeks, and it's still all unraveling. They've claimed bankruptcy in the Bahamas. And it obviously has an impact, right? Because FTX was a huge part of the ecosystem, and it was sustaining a lot of stuff. They came to rescue different projects and companies that were in trouble after Luna collapsed. So this question is to Galen. To address the elephant in the room, what do you think will happen now? And then do you think this will have much impact on impact projects in the near future?
Yeah, so I think we need to unpack the question, right? So, you know, the thing about Terra, the 3 Arrows capital, and then you saw the whole incident with the whole FTX things. I think criminally, in terms from a legal perspective, I think has a couple perspectives. First and foremost is, you know, from a 3 Arrow perspective, they're always fully prop capital. Yes, obviously they borrowed, and you know, they borrowed money from Genesis, DCG, a couple other large, you know, crypto lenders. Luna was like an algorithmic stable coin where basically it imploded because it got way too big, and everyone wanted to, you know, exit all at the same time, right? And obviously the price of Luna plus in terms of the ARB with, you know, the UST, it wasn't able to hold that peg. Obviously, at the same time, what we saw over the last 2 weeks, you know, with the recent FTX implosion is, you know, what he was basically doing was using users' deposits, collateralizing it, and, you know, borrowing more money, and then investing to stadiums, buying property for his parents, you know, using stuff to donate to other stuff, right? And what's quite interesting is that a lot of these leverage really started unwinding after the market really started crashing, I think earlier this year. I think during a bull run, a lot of these stuff are swept under the rug, right? You know, people don't really care about, oh, you know, this is happening, you know, these guys don't have their proof of reserves, right? Everyone was just super happy about making money. But, you know, as Warren Buffett says, right, is that when the market tide recedes, that's when you know, okay, who's actually swimming naked in the ocean, right?
And we're all wearing trousers here. Me a skirt.
You know, we're super lucky. You know, we're all still here. Obviously, people have lost a lot of money, but from a strategic level point of view, this is good for the whole industry, because what if FTX was not 2 or 3 times bigger, but this was like 5 years later, and FTX was a $1 trillion company, and everyone's life savings was on FTX, and this whole thing blew up. So I think in a way, there's a silver lining to everything, is that yes, There's a lot of short-term pain. A lot of industry has lost trust in terms of crypto space. A lot of institutionals that I know that have invested into crypto through a institutional manner has basically left or started pulling money away. But at the same time, it really de-hedged a lot of the risk that we have within industry. And what we've started to see in the last 2 weeks is a lot of leverage are unwinding, and hopefully over the next 6 months, we'll start to see a lot of stuff stabilize, and hopefully will probably be a good time for, especially impact projects, a lot of new builders to fundraise and start building from the ashes.
So impact builders shouldn't lose hope in terms of fundraising and gaining interest.
Yeah, I mean, look, yes, the Fed has printed a lot of money over the past few years, and now they're swinging the pendulum back. Liquidity and capital has really dried up over the past year or so. I think, for you to raise, $5 million last year, within like a couple of days, you get all the money, right? And, you can do an NFT sale and you can sell out, your whole NFT collection. But today, it's a very, very different story. People are doing a lot of due diligence. NFT sales aren't doing so well. People have migrated into something called free mints and try and generate royalties based on these free mints. But now Magic Eden saying, hey, we're not going to have royalties, which has a lot of whole bunch of drama, right? So now I think we just need to wait and see, take a wait and see approach, wait until the market stabilizes, and then we say, hey, who are the VCs still survived or still here? And then we raise money from them and we continue building. For now, it's just super stealth, under the radar, and I think everyone will be fine.
Thank you, Galen. And as always, this is not investment advice, okay? This is disclaimer, okay? Please do your own due diligence, please. Don't take advice from us. Okay, so zooming out of Web3 a little bit, because we talked about, very practical stuff that's been happening right now. Web3 is a concept and definitely a new realm in itself. And fundamentally, if we're going to talk about the actual technology behind it, it is smart contracts being built on blockchain, etc. So what do you think are the advantages or upside that you see blockchain being brought into impact, sustainability, and ESG? And I'd like to address this question to Max and Kelvin. Thank you.
Just building on what Galen said at the very end, I think when we talk about ESG, there's the environment, there's the social aspect, and there's the governance. And I think in some ways the total implosion of FTX actually is mostly a lack of governance. So I think it's not that like ESG is only relevant to the traditional world. ESG actually is extremely relevant to the crypto industry, and the sort of recent market news I think highlights that example more deeply. I think I want to personally reflect a little bit about the technology, and I'll give Louis a chance to share his views as well. Watching the crypto industry evolve over the last few years, my biggest takeaway has been that there's many times where individual human action can be changed at a decision-making level based on what incentives they receive. And because of the way the traditional monetary system is built, it's actually quite expensive to send money around, right? You can't really afford to spend pennies or cents because the Visa transaction fees base layer is like $2 minimum. So where we're moving towards in the future, I think, is actually, on one hand, using smart contracts to be able to touch and nudge and poke people at individual decision-making so that they can correct their behavior, perhaps, to a more positive outcome. That's something that's never been possible before. Smart contracts enable that in a very fundamental behavioral level. And the second thing, which sort of matters to me a lot for climate change, but hopefully to other people, is actually that crypto and blockchain overall allows us to re-examine how we assign value to things. So a lot of times social impact suffers from the fact that we're doing things that are net positive for society, but it doesn't really have an economic reward. And if we actually start valuing the clean air we breathe, the water we drink, the good food we eat, actually as economic indicators, then we start pricing them accordingly. And so we're at the very beginning, I think, of being able to take intangibles like carbon, like biodiversity, like social inclusion, and encode them into sort of new units of measure with these kind of smart contract tools. And that's kind of, I think, the beginning journey we're on.
Okay.
And yes, Kelvin.
So I guess it's my turn. Yeah, just like I think in terms of like social for NFT, for a lot of this like blockchain technology, I think to me it's more than just the technology itself, but it's actually two things. One is the ecosystem creating, like how do you actually create your Web3 or virtual identity and being opinionative, like even your like minorities into like Web3. So the reason why I'm saying it because like all these like FTX issues, all the NFT like full price drops, you see a lot of community or NFT project, like they have a lot of following on Discord, on Twitter, but all of a sudden all these people's gone. So you realize these are the people who are not here for your project, but actually for the money, and most of them are probably bots, right? So they're not real people. But then in terms of our project, we have advisors, we have a team that actually doing more than just Monkey Kingdom. So for example, I will give a pretty good examples. It's actually one of our advisors, he's doing this project called Yoga Pass. So they start off just having people to doing yoga and sharing like thoughts about like different ideations or like philosophy behind like what sort of things you can create, and then focusing on mental wellness. And that creates a huge community like organically because of blockchain, because of like Discord, because different tools that like having NFT market created and all these tools that's in the market, and they can leverage it, having a small or niche people, like niche crowd, they can actually have niche interests that create a huge community out of it. So I think that was the biggest like benefit when the market is down and everyone slow down and focus on what can you build in this market. Yeah. And this is the upside for like with blockchain and Web3.
Yeah, so it's sounds like it's an amalgamation of technology and niche interests like in Reddit subthreads, right? That can explode in the metaverse world. Okay, thank you very much for sharing that. And for myself personally, I am always really interested in the why and the stories and personal missions behind it. And I would like to find this out from Lewis and Max. You know, it's very trendy to be in the metaverse. So why is it important for your projects, Dialogue in the Dark and Carbon Base, to be in the metaverse? What does it mean to you? And would you be able to share a little bit more of your experiences and insights that you have gleaned from doing your projects in the metaverse? Thank you.
Thank you. For Dialogue in the Dark, actually we are still learning in progress. We are trying to do something more innovative, and we have a thinking like we want to demonstrate to the NGO or the social level that we should move forward. We don't want to issue like membership card or stuff or like so old-fashioned. So this is what we want to do, and the upside is we got the branding is okay, it's good. We are demonstrating we are innovative organization, and we have a little bit result now. In last 2-3 months, we are like improving the membership, and we are successfully to bring more people to our center to experience our experience through the NFT project. This is the upside, and then we should go forward. And the day one decision is important is that we define this is a membership rather than like a fundraising. I mean, otherwise it would be like what Kelvin said, people come to, let's make a money-making project and then everybody disappear. And we want it to be like long-lasting. I mean, more than that, it's about Metaverse, and we're still learning, as I said, like how can we contribute to the Metaverse. I think the concept is very unique. So we want to promote, advocate our like people of differences concept and inclusive concept to everywhere. Still thinking how to make it, but this is what we should. This is the direction we are going forward. And the downside is like our target is public. We should know like to know you earlier. It's like when we talk to people, come on, it's very simple. You can buy the NFT. Actually, that's very, very difficult, and people say no. And then even some people come to us, it's like, I give you money, don't ask me to buy an NFT. I said, what? This is just an NFT, right? This is like crypto or whatever. No, don't touch me, and something like that. So, and as long as our target are like public, and that's hard to promote. We're still learning, and so you see we organize a lot of activity, and I mean there's interesting like physical activity and metaverse, and we're still working to collect these two areas, and we want to do more. So let's see, we will keep going, keep the project going, and then we will develop in the future.
I've been thinking about the way that we use metaverses these days, right? So if you look at the usage numbers in Sandbox and Decentraland, it's like very low, right? It's like on the tens to hundreds of people. And what it says to me is that the adoption of buying Sandbox land for these big corporates has mostly been a great marketing exercise. You know, you spend $1 million, you get huge amounts of PR. People think your brand's very innovative, but I don't think we haven't reached the usage part, the individual participation component. For us right now, one of the projects we've been thinking a lot about, spent maybe like 10 months on, actually is creating a green metaverse for a piece of land in a country that is today already carbon neutral or carbon negative. And these people are currently living in relative poverty, but they have to make a very difficult choice between either destroying their beautiful natural resources or staying in poverty and keeping their neutrality status. And that's a difficult decision to make. So we just concluded COP27. The fundamental debate that happened in the United Nations COP27 was actually around loss and damages, which is that Pakistan is 30% underwater. Like, who's going to pay for this? And if you are a developed country, you are Europe, you're United States, you already are living in prosperity, but your prosperity is built on the back of all of the carbon you emitted over the last 150 years that you're not responsible for at all. Who's going to show up and pay for the people suffering at the heels of that? And unfortunately, it looks like the sovereign countries themselves are not willing to pay. There was a very big resistance from any developed country to really pony up any cash. So what we want to do with our metaverse concept actually is to have individuals participate. And here it goes back to what is the utility of being able to buy a green metaverse piece of land? The first is you just get to go visit a country that is beautiful. So there's a strong tourism and travel destination aspect of this. Second is I'm really personally fascinated by what Estonia did as a country. Estonia issued digital ID cards so that you can become a digital resident of Estonia without ever having set foot in Estonia, and now you have a connection to the country. You might care more about Estonian things than before. So there's only a few people who've actually come to this carbon neutral country, but maybe through this green metaverse we can have 1 million people actually become kind of honorary citizens. And being able to play at the boundaries of identity and participation and kind of international relations, that to me is a very exciting sort of new dimension of where the metaverse conversation can go.
Thank you for raising the philosophical and the boundaryless viewpoints of the metaverse as well. And I mean, we are in Impact, and we're at an Impact Summit, right? So we're all going to be a little bit more idealistic than your average citizen, but I do really love that concept. And to refer back to Lewis, who mentioned a little bit about the story behind it. I think storytelling is an essential part of the metaverse, since it's also a new world. To get people attracted to use it, you have to be able to present a story well. And to this point, I'm going to ask Calvin a little bit in a sec about UI UX, because that is also very much an important part of storytelling. But I think because Dialogue in the Dark, your NGO, it represents people of difference. And I'm also just thinking for the actual people of difference, whether being in the metaverse is quite a cool experience, because your profile photo, you don't have to make yourself different, right? You can just be like anyone else. So that's also another thing. I wonder if any people of your community have experiences in the metaverse and they've told you, yeah, it's great.
I think people differences is an important concept to our association, and in darkness is, I mean, it's interesting meaning is in total darkness is almost like in metaverse. So that's why I'm always thinking how we can put things together, like interact with each other, like how can we move forward in the metaverse and to advocate people with different concept and also the inclusion empathy stuff over there. And I don't have much to add there, but I mean, still thinking how to do this.
Yeah, so I myself had a personal experience of dialogue in the dark. It's basically you're in a blacked out room, totally blacked out, cannot see your hand in front of you, and you have to navigate doing tasks like writing a poem, right, on a piece of paper with a group, and you have to all write on the same paper. So that kind of experience is great.
That's secret, okay.
Sorry, sorry. But I think you should go. You should go to this workshop. Get your team together. But replicating that in the metaverse, I wonder what it would be like to try and use your computer blacked out in the metaverse. So that would be something to work towards. Hey.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. So the next question, as I was alluding to earlier, would be to Kelvin, because as we were saying, storytelling is super important for any new company, any new project. And to get people excited. So UI UX is a huge part of it. And we were also saying earlier with a couple of presentations before that getting on-ramp and off-ramp with wallets and also buying tokens from an exchange and exchanging it back, that's all really complicated. So what are your experiences in the UI UX regard or the storytelling regard that you have tried out for Monkey Kingdom that has helped you, and what would you like to share with all of us here?
Sure. So I'm actually coming from this like more Web2 product design, UI UX, product manager background. So when I come to Web3, first thing I see is like there's only UX but no UI. Like not many guys are doing like these guys, like one click buy an NFT, right? You have to go through all these process and like DeFi, NFT, GameFi, everything. Like it's just a huge like hustle to actually get a wallet, get the access, get into the actual experience. So there's always like, but people doesn't really care because like there's two part in Web3 is one is the actual project itself, and second is the token itself, right? Most of the people putting focus on the token. So you have like FTX exchanges getting so big, getting so much support because they actually makes money, and then those UIs are good. But when it actually goes down to the actual application, like people use it, or even like marketplaces, those UIs are not very good. But for the UX experience they're talking about is just like, how do you get this functionality as soon as possible? Like if I want to buy this, how do I get it as quick as I can? And then they normally, because the point is if they get it quick, they can make money fast. So they don't really need to worry about like the UI too much. But what we are seeing, like from our experience, like there's a good and bad thing about Web3 is there's no right or wrong. Like there's no guidelines, there's no principles, there's like, you just keep trying and error. And then you ask yourself, are you trying to chase the market or are you actually serving your community? So at that point, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of projects like just gonna chase the market. Whatever market trend is, I will try to do it. But you actually have a very specific community. Did you actually spend time to understand, study them? Because a big part of UX research is to understand your customers. Is Discord, like that communication channel, is it enough? But when Discord itself have a very bad UX and UI experience, and it's Twitter, that channel, is it enough? Like what is the best way for you to engage with your community? So when we ask ourselves that questions, especially during this market, then we realize that, oh, Discord, Twitter are the norm or trends that's set by certain people or certain groups, right? Why don't we explore more different channels? Then we start to study what's the demographic of our holders, NFT holders. Some of them are from Taiwan. Some of them are from China, some of them from the different areas, right? And like Korea have KakaoTalk, Taiwan have Line. Then we start to realize, oh, there's so many groups. It's an official group that opened by these holders that actually have more information flow within this group that we always just like ignore. And we thought, oh, because it's not official, so it's not our thing. So now we try to tap into these channels a little bit more because these are part of the UX experience that we be more inclusive in our official channel. We also include these channels for people to communicate with us. So I think that part being like, you can name it like customer service or like just engagement with community, that part is a huge part that we've made a change at this point, I think, compared to many other projects. And then Another thing is we try to do more in terms of UI UX. Like we try to do more about like what actually the community wants in terms of the NFT itself. So it's funny, like when you think about NFT, it's more of like a personal experience. Like you bought an NFT, you wait for it to review it, the whole period of time, and then suddenly you get a super rare one or a super common one, right? And that represent yourself and changing the profile picture. But how does it actually represent you? If, like for example, you get a trace of an NFT that holding a basketball, but you're a soccer player, right? But because the market value so high, you'll be like, okay, now I'm a basketball supporter because it's expensive. And so now another thing we're trying to do is like we're testing the market. So a lot of the thing is actually A/B testing child. So recently, because of FTX, we're making a joke in the market, like we're so broke now, we all have to work in McDonald's. So that joke's like kind of like elaborate to like what happened to the profile picture. It wasn't original. It's not an NFT. I'm telling you, it's just a JPEG. So we're basically letting people to turn their NFT into a JPEG, no values, but it's fun. So we give you a new trace, you change it. So our NFT on-chain is immutable already, but so we're doing this just for fun, for people to do a mutable NFT. So we're trying to get people to see, do you actually like it to change a trait can actually represent some sort of phenomenon or like situation in the world that actually you're living in? Or you just barely, oh, this is an NFT, it represents me. So that's something that we've been trying to evolve as a project itself and also trying to evolve with the community as well. So yeah, that would be my take. My biggest advice is listen to community and don't think NFT or crypto is a big boys club anymore. You gotta welcome the Web2 people and truly understand what they want and how they feel. Yeah.
Thank you. Big boys and girls club. And it gives the acronym, right? The very popular HFSP, have fun staying poor acronym, some resonance now. So we're going to keep saying that to each other at the moment. But Kelvin, thank you for that. But is there something specific to Hong Kong that you have noticed in terms of communities, how to get them engaged? Perhaps you could share this with our audience here, since we're all in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, I think I would say Hong Kong, like you can rely, like, because we have the advantage of being the team, most of the team is actually being in Hong Kong, start from Hong Kong. So I think a lot of time for Hong Kong community, like specifically, we're actually doing more offline events for them. And which is they actually appreciate, because not something just virtual, right? Like, I think at this point, Web2 people trying to understand Web3, and Web3 people actually trying to come back and understand Web2. So we're doing more offline events, offline collaborations with different merch. Like we did ambush hoodies with ambush, and then we actually giving to our community. We did a party. That's how I also met this guy the last couple of weeks. We did a 1-year party, but we're actually having a 1-year anniversary birthday party tomorrow at McDonald's, actual McDonald's. So we're inviting all the holders there. So we try to make it fun and try to like, what we're trying to do right now is like, okay, like floor price doesn't make any sense anymore. Royalty is gone. What can we do as a community? How can we do as an NFT? So for specific Hong Kong holders, the advantage they can take is all these offline events that we can do for them. Yeah.
Next time, birthday come to Darling to Dang. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Birthday into Dang. Okay.
You can all eat McDonald's in the dark. How fun would that be? Ketchup everywhere. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So my next question is for Galen, to put our investor hats back on. And this is going to be a challenging one, so I want the truth from you, Galen, okay?
Sure, that's good.
So as an investor, early believer, and a very early adopter of Web3 and crypto, you must have seen many projects over these years. And we're all passionate people here in impact, right? We want to make a difference. I think I have an overall bigger question here, and then I'll break it down into smaller questions for Galen to answer. So the bigger question is there hope for impact in Web3 beyond tokenomics and incentive purely driven by token market prices? And I think when you were discussing offline events, there is a bit of hope. But then it's also just hanging out together, right? Which I can also do with an Eventbrite. The smaller questions are, what do you think impact projects in Web3 can borrow from other projects that have made it in this space? In other words, how can we improve upon current impact projects and so we can make impact more widespread in Web3?
Yeah, sure. So those are great questions, right? And let's just take a step back. I started in crypto mid to late 2016 by this professor called Paul Forster. He was an environmental sciences teacher at Hong Kong USD, and my GPA back then was like 2 point something, 2.1 or 2.2 that semester. I was super depressed. And he's like, Gal, because I asked, he was my mentor. It's my first university professor. And I applied for banks. I didn't get in. I was like, shit, what am I going to do with my life? I'm a failure. So I went to his office. I said, hey, Professor Forster, what would you recommend? And he says, Gal, why don't you check out something called Ethereum, right? Maybe you can be good at something called crypto, and you should do some reading about it. At that time, it was like $1, $2 or something like that. So I took a couple months. I put my life savings in, 31,000 Hong Kong dollars, and the rest was history. But the thing is, what really distills about this is crypto has made a lot of positive impact within society, even the past decade, right? The number of people who got, I don't want to say lucky, because crypto is a very PvP market, right? It's very, very competitive, and whoever is able to survive this long to date, people on the stage, right, has done very, very well, right? And the thing is, what you really need to understand is crypto has given a lot of people financial freedom from a financial perspective. And from a VC myself, from a sole crypto investor into a prop fund, so basically, we're a VC fund using our own capital. We don't have any external LPs. For me, is to a certain extent, I'm not funding deals because, I want to make more money. I want to sell these tokens on day one and say, hey, I'll buy a house, a nice fancy house. No. But rather, as I mentioned when I went back to Hong Kong UST, I think this was a couple months ago, is I really want to empower founders that do not have the financial firepower to say, hey, I want to build this project. And I remember very distinctively, before my crypto journey, I tried to start a couple companies. I did a 3D printing company, and I did a VR headset company. This is way before Metaverse and stuff like that. And no VCs wanted to fund my project. And I remember wow, it's super hard to get VC funding. So through crypto and through our philosophy at Double Peak, as a prop capital family office, I really want to empower these creators, these founders, either creating wallets, creating their own layer 1 blockchains like Immutable X, building their own DeFi protocol, is to empower these founders to give them something that I did not have when I was younger, right? And these founders are like 20-something years old. The founder of Aave, Stanley, when he started Len Protocol, aka Aave, was like 20-something years old, right? So the crypto industry is very young and nascent, but at the same time, there's a lot of founders and investors that are willing to back these projects. Now, obviously, conversely, looking from the other side, for impact projects specifically, raising funding from VCs has always been tough, right? If you don't have a business model or your idea is not very clear, it's very, very hard to raise funding. So as long as you have a very clear idea in terms of what you guys want to do, very clear upfront in terms of, okay, what is the token utility? What is practical applications? How do you facilitate value to across various other industries? I think that's going to be very important as a project trying to fundraise. I think putting project ideas aside, I think all projects are the same, but what VCs really look at is, okay, the talent and the people and how driven they are.
Wow, thank you. I think that is a powerful message in terms of wanting to empower other people because they remind you of the times when you were not able to receive funding for your hopes and dreams. And I suppose a lot of the millennials and Gen Z hopped onto Web3 because it was a new metaverse, new universe where they could make their ideas happen, which was not possible IRL, right? So yeah, and I think also, I'm just going to add my little opinion here. I said I'm quite opinionated. I think investors, particularly here in Hong Kong, can also have a bit of a mindset change, right, in terms of impact. Because I know as an investment, you always look at it compared to other things, right? You have a benchmark. But I don't see why impact should be compared in such a way when we're trying to make a difference in society. So I also hope that investors, and not just impact investors, can see impact projects and impact startups in a new light. Yeah. My next question is for Lewis. And I apologize in advance for having to ask you this, but you are the slightly more senior person on our panel.
Senior person, yeah.
Senior only in date of birth, not in mindset or in looks,
Thank you.
obviously.
Okay.
But you know, the metaverse is really inclusive, right, for everyone, and we want everyone to enjoy it. I tend to think when I hear conversations in Hong Kong, people above the millennial generation really don't get the metaverse or Web3 at all. So from your experience, how did you slowly ease yourself into it? And do you have any tips or suggestions that you'd like to share with other people in our society?
As a senior people here, yeah, I would share my experience like in last few months, because I just learned like NFT within a year. Okay, actually in last half year, I learned a lot of good people in the market. In the Web3 NFT market, like they generate a lot of applications and ways how to generalize, how to maximize the power of NFT. So I will recommend for those young, Gen Z, new generation, if they want to get into market, try to know more people, ask for more, learn more, and to me, social impact is important. Everything is about social impact. So make sure what you want to do. Again, try to ask advice for these guys, and then you know how to do, because there is so much good advice to us and to move forward. So don't just like, hey, Web3 is good, let's go. And then I suggest to ask more people and make sure what kind of social impact you want to generate.
Okay, that's a good piece of advice. Basically, talk to a lot of people, or you can also supplement with a bit of YouTube videos, right, to learn quickly and accelerate your growth. Okay, and I have a final question, and this is also kind of a tough question, but a really philosophical one, and one that, you know, before when we did our panel preparation, we asked ourselves this. We all know that the adoption of new ideas, new concepts, and products take time. You know, as you know, in innovation, there's that innovator curve, right? And crypto, metaverse, Web3 was still in the very early adoption phase of the curve. And one of the biggest questions really is, because we're now intersecting impact and Web3 here, relatively speaking. And I want each of the panelists to answer this question. Do you think it's going to be easier to engage crypto degens, i.e. really big fans, to engage them with Web3 impact projects? Or is it going to be easier to engage the mainstream who might already be interested in impact to get them more engaged in Web3? So, please.
Yeah, sure. So I would say it's an intersection of both. I think there's no one clear answer to say, hey, you know, we need to get Web3 degens and get them into social impact. At the same time, you know, we shouldn't get, you know, social impact guys just to convert them into Web3. I think we need to find a midpoint. And what we've seen really with Reddit, for example, Reddit has always been historically very anti-NFT, right? If you go into Reddit, people say, you know, NFT is a scam, it's not carbon neutral, and it's all stuff like that. But with with the Reddit collectibles, they call it Reddit collectibles, but in actual fact they're NFTs on Polygon. they're very receptive. They're very positive because they had a very easy to use interface. People didn't know they're actually using crypto at all. It's just they have a wallet on Reddit and they can customize their avatar. And some of them are going for like 10 or 15 ETH, and the golden Midas, the hands, and all the stuff like that. So I would say it's bridging best of both worlds. I wouldn't say it's one or the other, but it's making sure that we find common grounds that both parties can resonate, and then go on from there. Now, how it would look like in the next 6 to 12 months, I'm not sure because the market's so highly uncertain. But I can definitely agree that in the next 3 to 5 years, longer term wise, it's having these on-ramps and off-ramps that will facilitate interaction between both worlds and making sure that they can allocate resources effectively across different types of spectrum.
I would agree with that. Definitely the interface between on-ramp, off-ramp. Very true. Kelvin?
Yeah, 100% agree with you, Galen. And then but if the question is asking which one is an easier sell, I would still say DGen people are easiest to sell. They're more open-minded to, they're not stupid, but they're first adopter, they're first mover. They will be probably easier to tell them, hey, with crypto, you can do more for the society, right? But when all these market happening, it's probably harder for general public to say, oh yeah, it's a good time to go into Web3. So that could be a little bit hard to sell, I would say. But at the same time, in the future, definitely you need to have a bridge to bridge Web2 and Web3 people. In our latest kind of rebrand statement, one of the statements is we, as One Kingdom, what we're trying to do is to climb the fence to cross from Web 2 to Web 3 or Web 3 to Web 2. So interchangeable, right? So in terms of that question, I would say DGen people definitely easier to sell, but you need both to make it work.
Yeah, and degen is degenerate. It stands for degenerative, and it's degen for a reason, right? So it might be an easier sell this way. But maybe another thing is, and a philosophical, conceptual question is, how do you then turn degen into impact so that to be a degen is actually very impactful positively for society? Now, that's a question we can all work on. Max?
One of the phrases evolution of degen, especially for climate change. So there's a concept called DeFi, right, decentralized finance. And there's a smaller hashtag called ReFi, R-E-F-I, which is regenerative finance. And so we're actually communicating inside our own community of, instead of being a degen, you could be a regen. So you regenerate things. And I think that there is a gradual shift of people entering ReFi and finding, inside ReFi kind of a set of values that anchor them from both the impact side as well as the interest and desire to do crypto stuff. To be honest, after doing 3 years of this, it's really hard. I think it's one of the hardest things I've ever done because social impact fundamentally doesn't usually generate money. And I think what keeps us going is actually a deep sense of meaning, right? We feel like what we're doing is really important, but you sort of have to claw portions of other people's charity and altruism into your budget in order to actually continue doing what you're doing. And that's the heart of, I think, social impact, fundamentally. The crypto world is so fast because it allows people to make money. Everyone who's really early adopters, they put up with all of the terrible UI UX because they can earn income, right? And when the going is good, you can make a lot of money really fast. So I think in some ways that has been one of the key enablers of actually adoption. And now we're in this kind of next cycle of bear market. Price is not going to move for probably a year or so. And in this duration, we have this kind of vacuum where people can reflect, what have I done? What do I want to do next? And the last cycle that's happened, the 2017 to 2019, there were a few people who actually took their crypto earnings and started, investing philanthropically in different stuff. And that was kind of one way that they made meaning out of their newfound wealth. So for me, I think two kind of key considerations. One of them is the ability for us to create social incentives that are not fundamentally cash-based can be really exciting. Right, so the sense of community belonging, that's a really powerful feeling. That actually is a more important feeling for happiness than cash. And so we can actually sort of potentially grow people's participation from that sort of satisfaction of need, as opposed to here's some dollars for you to go spend somewhere. So I think that's one thing that can be really powerful. And the second thing is, I think there's a lot of traditional people who have stored up huge ecosystems of social relationships. And when they enter the crypto world, like for example, when Lewis is bringing his entire community into the crypto world for the first time, there's also kind of another intangible creation process. And so I really believe that the next phase of this will be kind of more visible existing social structures that have a direct Web3 counterparty relationship. That I think is a very powerful sort of value creation process. So.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. Sense of belonging. I feel it. Feel it from you. From over here. Lewis.
Actually, I can compare both because I didn't do the two things together. So because to download that, we have no choice. This is not a choice for us. Like our choice is to engage the mainstream from day one, because this is what we are doing. So this is really, really hard. But from day one, we know that. But it's too hard, actually. I need your help somehow. But from day one to now, we keep going. We think this is the right direction, but even this is difficult to engage mainstream to get NFT and Web3. But I think there should be a good progress in the future, like Web2, Web3 get together and online and offline and get together more in the future. And I don't know, because recently, because the NFT and the crypto market changes may accelerate this kind of collaboration between Web2, Web3, and I hope we can engage more mainstream people to get into Web3 in this way.
Thank you everyone for sharing. And I might just want to wrap up with a couple of common points and themes that I heard from our panelists, who very kindly shared all of their experiences and insights. And I thank you all again for this. Thank you. I've learned a lot. I think some of the common themes are experiences, community, sense of belonging, empowerment. So, and feeling a sense of achievement when you've actually been able to do something that's so hard, right? When you're really transgressing into a new realm. But all of these things have a common thing, which boils back down to our human consciousness, the core of us, which is sense of belonging. So back in history, it was probably religion or living in a tribe where you got your sense of belonging and functionality, right? And it's no different. Web3 is really the same. It's just a new technological medium. So hence why when we're building in Web3, people still love to do offline events, because you're not really going to create exactly the same thing that is tactile, right? I'm next to Galen. I'm feeling him right now. So that sense of community and belonging has to be there, even with new technology. So this is super interesting, and I guess something to take away, because that is also for impact as well. What I love about impact and the community here is essentially the sense of belonging, the community, and the values, and how we can empower each other and people in society. So yeah, I hope we can take away this kind of positivity, even with this crypto winter and downturn, and keep building for the better. Thank you, everyone. Oh. Okay, and Dorothy has reminded me that we have time for Q&A. So, we have a brave soul here in green. Please, ask the first question.
Thank you, everyone. I have a question for all 5 of you, including Ms. Lee. From your individual and respective perspectives, can you name one area that you'd like to see greater cooperation between the US and China, and why? Thank you.
It's a great question. I think there's a couple key things, and I don't think there's a very clear-cut response to that. Given the geopolitical, I think, considerations and what you can say and what you cannot say. But I'll give my pure perspective on this is that I think from a protocol to protocol level is finding avenues and collaborations that protocols can speak to each other. So what do I mean by that? If you look at the events of CBDCs, when I was at PwC on the crypto team, I worked on a lot of the very high-profile crypto engagements there. And one of the programs that were a highlight of my career was the Enbridge program. So building the e-Hong Kong dollar and the CBDC program. And what we're starting to see is the fragmentation of from a protocol level, right? Let's say England's coming out with their digital pound. US is coming out investigating about their US dollar, and Hong Kong's coming out with their own Hong Kong dollar and stuff like that. How do these types of protocols communicate with each other? Do we need to build another SWIFT, basically this the money transmitter protocol layer that will allow people to communicate? But at the same time is, if something happens like Russia, you can just basically cut them off from the whole SWIFT system. Now, obviously, Europeans, they have their own IBAN system, which is, within Europe to wire money around. It's much more easier. But how do we create a common ecosystem that countries can work together and build a protocol that people can build together, rather than having competing different supply chains, competing different types of chains that would make life difficult for people like you and me. So let's say if you want to send money now to the US, you just send it in USDC on ETH, but in the future it could be you need to go through an intermediary again because of the CBDC, because it doesn't work well together. So just to take a step back is I believe that countries should work together to create a common standard that everyone can adopt and approach and use, so that it could make cross-border collaboration much more easier, not only on the physical level, but also on a digital level, especially in crypto.
Anyone else?
I mean, for me, the very immediate one is climate change. So after Pelosi visit to Taiwan, China decided to stop working with US on climate change cooperation. Very recently, Xi and Biden met again in person in Egypt, and they decided to resume. And I think, from my own personal background, having sort of lived in these two, countries, I think this is probably one of the few things that China and US have in common that speaks to their mutual benefit. And the opportunity really is to, the Paris Agreement, the one that actually everyone cites, was built on the backbone of the US-China Climate Agreement. Like, that particular agreement was what made Paris Agreement possible. And so if we want to continue doing stuff in the climate change world, this is kind of a key international relation dynamic that needs to continue.
So I agree with climate and also with protocols, where don't then tear down intermediaries and then build them back up again. They need to cross-communicate with each other, and climate is something that we all share. So for myself, I would say interpersonal relationships or dialogue, because I think a lot of what's happening between US, China, and I'm going to wear my hat, please don't, HKMA, Hong Kong government, if you're listening, don't prosecute me after this. But I think, a lot of it is just political gerrymandering. It's a lot of just hustling, positing for our country's gains, and for our own strategic positioning for the future. To be honest, as humans, as citizens of wherever we're based, we go through the same things, right? Jobs, health, family. I mean, it's really all the same. So there's not that much difference. Aside from some cultural differences, there's not that much difference between us here in Asia and the US. So I think if we keep a dialogue, not just on the governmental level, but just person to person, talk to an American, for a day, and see if we can tear down those prejudices or the biases that we hear in the media, because the media likes to amplify points so that they get more clicks and views. But that's my view. It's very idealistic, I know. And that's it for this question then. Thank you for the person in the green shirt.
Hello, this is Keith. I have a Metaverse startup that works on education and cultural areas, and I'm still learning every day, so thank you very much for sharing. I have one question for Louis and perhaps Kelvin as well. I'm just actually wondering that is NFT not on the country damaging inclusiveness? Like in the sense that, like Metaverse, you can break down to the 3D virtual space, you can have the blockchain, you can have crypto and NFTs, different kind of components there. But the 3D virtual space itself is very inclusive because there's a URL. When you click into it, you can play with it, just like on Decentraland. But an NFT on top of that, if it's like a collectible system or a membership system, it's kind of like there's a barrier that you have to overcome apart from the UI UX problem, but at least you need to have a crypto wallet, you have a bank account. So in that sense, shouldn't we just probably, like Kelvin said, we should give up like, free JPEGs to everyone so that, everybody could have fun with it like that. So no, it's probably a philosophical question, but I'm just wondering that, probably every day. Thanks a lot.
Okay, you study a lot, you know more than me. And then to us, because we try a lot, especially for our visually impaired, hearing impaired people, they want to try the NFT stuff. There's honestly, most of the platform not inclusive enough at that point. Okay, and on the other hand, I think this is just a tool, just one of the tools I can use. Like, as long as this is the membership system, I have a lot of other ways to do this thing. So I don't want to just limit it to that mindset. It's like, okay, this is not so inclusive, so we give up. Let's think, is there any other way we can include more people? At this moment, maybe not 100%. It's like, let's do more and more. Let's push forward. I think this is the future of somehow this of our future in technology. So we can learn and try and push. This is what I'm thinking. Thank you. Anything? Yeah.
So for us, I mentioned that maybe the JPEG was a good example, but it was a test and trials, I would say. So we're still huge believers in NFT as a tools, but is it just a JPEG? It's not. But then, but you need to do some MVP to test the market, see if it's actually moving from, like for example, for our NFT, it's immutable. So we want to make it mutable. Do we do it like that, or we actually do some testing? So that was that. So like you said, that all these things are just the tools. It's not like, it depends on how you use it. So I wouldn't say it's something that you should just give up completely to and then like the whole UX, UI experience, the whole journey, the user journey things, you need a whole team and a whole community or ecosystem to figure it out together. So I think that would be my take on it.
One more question. Time for one more.
Hi. Thank you for sharing. I actually asked the same question for the last section, but I would also love to have your opinion regarding crypto adoption on like public transaction. Do you have a vision on adopting cryptocurrency, for example, like Bitcoins and Ethereum, onto like mass general public, like using Ethereum or Bitcoin to buy groceries or go to supermarket and we are able to pay Ethereum to the shops in Hong Kong? Yes or no? And do you see any barriers in adopting this system in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I think just to be very clear, I think the future will be split into two paths. One is the CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Basically, Hong Kong government say this is the legal tender, this is the e-Hong Kong dollar, built on blockchain technology, and then you'll be able to spend it. Very, very similar to the e-RMB, basically in China with the PBOC doing all the trials. At the same time, when you talk about crypto adoption, I don't think it's as simple as, oh, let's send you ETH or send you Bitcoin or Lightning Network and stuff like that. But rather, we have something called crypto cards, like crypto.com. We've had Binance cards. We've got Reap, which is a Hong Kong-based company, where you can just actually deposit your crypto into it, and then it'll automatically convert as a Visa or MasterCard and just pay for things, right? So the adoption is definitely there. But when you really talk about, okay, the type of blockchain technology, whether Ethereum and Bitcoin, I don't think the probability will be there. But with CBDCs, yes, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, or even as soon as the next 2 or 3 years, we'll see a big G7 country or G20 country saying, hey, let's move everything into a CBDC-based protocol, and everything is traceable, and you can just measure your GDP data real time, right? So this is some of the benefits of a CBDC.
And personally, we're working actually with a really exciting kind of new card provider, and we're piloting some offline experiences in Hong Kong, where as Gillian mentioned, there's like existing cards that allow you to store money in a centralized entity, and then you can spend against that centralized entity. The trust basically settles for you and back to cash. We have another technology that actually has a chip that actually encodes the private and public chain onto the card itself. So the card is actually self-sovereign. It's a cold wallet card, and you can actually use NFC to spend it on a POS machine. So we're seeing actually the use and creation of new technologies that actually allow kind of a 7-year-old or a 70-year-old to actually spend crypto for the first time without having to worry about kind of private keys. And that's kind of soon to be available. Hope that you'll see some in Hong Kong soon.
So I think personally, so we're not doing anything DeFi, but I do want to see it happens in Hong Kong, to be honest, or in the world globally. Because like you're looking at like mass adoptions, like when all these market crash, when all like the hype, everything is gone, like who's the newcomers to this into Web3, right? So you look at the proportion is actually way bigger in terms of Web2. It's like more people can actually come into Web3. So definitely something that we'll foresee that is gonna happen. But like Gillian said, it's like an official and an unofficial, like P2P to actual central bank like structures. So that makes it pretty clear, I think.
Okay, thank you. So, but I would like to clarify something. My idea of crypto adoption isn't about ERMB or CBDC, because for me these are two centralized digital currency governed by the governments. What I'm talking about is using Bitcoin to buy groceries, or Ethereum to buy groceries, instead of like centralized currency like issued by the government.
Exactly, and these are views most definitely expressed by a DGen here. Thank you very much for your question. We do get it, but I think it's going to be very hard within our current political structures and framework to then completely have a decentralized currency and not have any kind of government or intermediary involved. But thank you very much. But on that point though, in terms of Bitcoin adoption, sorry Galen, but I'm going to point out Galen has Bitcoin socks on. They literally have the Bitcoin currency on his socks. So in terms of sock adoption, it is there and it is happening. So on that note, I'm going to end on a lighter note. But thank you very much to everyone in the audience, and thank you again to my panelists. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Before that, maybe we'll take a group photo with the photographer. Thank you.